Hello, welcome to the UK Wildlife Podcast. I'm Neil Phillips. This is the first of 3 episodes recorded at Global Bird Fair back in the summer. This first episode is with Luke Massey. How are you finding Bird Fair so far?
Yeah, it's good. I wasn't here last year, so it's good to see it new. It's not torrential rain. It's not really muddy.
Yeah, you missed the mud last year. You missed the mud, the high winds, the market lifting off, floods, everything.
Wetland creation.
Well, it's still 2 days to go, so
Well, true, yeah.
still time.
Yeah, time left. So you're here with Leica, is that correct?
Yeah. I'm over on the Leica Sport Optics stand to talk about binoculars and thermal monoculars. I guess you'd call it the Calanox.
Well, that's the in thing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, game changing in terms of wildlife viewing. When I'm doing guiding out in Spain where I live, in terms of spotting stuff. Obviously, you've got your binoculars, but thermal. Yeah, I worked for a company years ago in Bristol called Ammonite, and we focused on filming wildlife at night with military grade thermal cameras, and that was filming wild boar and stuff in the Forest of Dean, and seeing obviously heat through it, and then roll on. Yeah, it's nearly more than 10 years ago. Scary. But to have now this, we had a full kind of bigger than big photography rucksack, plus a laptop, a car battery, and the camera itself was like this kind of, like a small cannon, as in not the brand, as in a military weapon. And that's what we were lugging about, and you'd have to set it up and get your car battery out and that kind of thing. And then, these now, they fit in your palm of your hand, and really, really cool spotting stuff like lynx and wolves, bears, you name it. And obviously, you can look in a rocky ravine or something and see this little hot spot and then get a scope on it. And pretty cool.
Yeah, I always laugh when you see those behind the scenes, like this state-of-the-art, brilliant camera setup, and then it's all powered by a car battery.
Yeah. Ours proper was car battery. It looked like jump leads coming out. Yeah.
It's all high technical till you get to the power bit.
Exactly.
No, and I've got a couple of friends, they use it for spotting snipe. I think there was more jack snipe records than...
For bird ringing, and stuff, because obviously before you do spotlighting, but you've got to be scanning a field and seeing your jack snipe or your grey partridge, and now with a thermal binocular you can spot a heat spot in a field and walk up to it and whack your net over it. And I saw that as well. The jack snipe numbers this year were insane amounts.
Technology.
And they're tiny anyway, aren't they? Jack snipes.
Yeah, they could be right in front of you, because they're famous for you almost tread on them, aren't you? So
they explode up and give you a heart attack as you tread on them, basically.
Not quite as noisy as a pheasant, though, thankfully.
No.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that you're based in Spain. It's a wild Finca is your site, isn't it?
Yeah, so we have now it's 16 hectare kind of agri-wilding, we call it, project in Asturias, northern Spain. So it's kind of, if you know Santander, not the bank, but the city, that's kind of on the sticky out bit, and eastern northern Spain. We're an hour west of there, sandwiched between the kind of Atlantic. We're 10, 15 kilometres inland. And then we have the Picos de Europa National Park below us, again, probably about 10 kilometres in between. So in the foothills, we're only at 250 metres in altitude. But obviously, we have a big range of species. I think we've recorded 111 species of bird now on the Finca itself. And we've only been there for 5 years. So we've slowly bought up more land around it. And then the reason we say agri-wilding, we're not doing completely hands-off. It's only 16 hectares, which is about 30 acres or so, but we want a mosaic of habitats. The climate isn't dissimilar to here. It's a bit warmer, quite a lot of rainfall. It's not like the rest of Spain. They call Asturias green Spain. And so when, people come and visit, they're like, this isn't Spain. Because normally, when you're going further south, it's a bit more arid and, temperatures are a lot higher. But a mix of species, but you still have that kind of British species in terms of crossover. We don't get the Mediterranean. We had a hoopoe this year, but we don't get those Mediterranean species, but just hop just the other side of the mountains, 40-minute drive, then you're getting white storks, even bee-eaters and things like that. But we're still more of a northern, you haven't got that Mediterranean biome so much. But then we get species like redback shrike. You're basically looking at the UK 30 years ago, perhaps, in terms of some of the species that call home, plus stuff like melodious warbler. And then mammal-wise, you're looking at the UK 700 years ago. We've got Iberian wolf, subspecies Cantabrian brown bear, European wildcat, pine marten, beech marten, genet, there's a polecat, those kind of small mustelids, lots of different rodents, garden dormouse, which are super cute with a little, I don't know if you've seen one before, really small fluffy grey thing with a black bandit mask.
I was going to say, they're the ones with the little bandit mask.
They're actually, I think, one of the fastest declining rodents in Europe, but we seem to have a little stronghold. Quite I don't know, it's the word juxtaposition. I have reptile refugia maps to check for reptiles. And in winter, a garden dormouse hibernates underneath it for the last 2 winters. So you lift it up and there's this little garden dormouse snoozing away. You think, well, you're hoping a sea on ice viper's not going to turn up any minute now. Just have a little snack. Or, yeah, quite a big snack for a snake. And then they're actually breeding this year in a bird box. I went to check a bird box and there was a pile of little garden dormouse babies and a mum, which is pretty nice. So yeah, that's it. We're kind of like looking at doing, obviously where we live is very green and there's a mixture of land abandonment because of depopulation, but also thanks to EU common agricultural policy and stuff, there's also an intensification of agriculture. More livestock, ivermectin, anti-wormers, anti-parasite things which are like deadly to basically any invertebrate, water pollution, all these kind of problems that, we see here in the UK. Obviously, this is the UK Wildlife Podcast, so it's a bit further afield. But yeah, you've got these, this year, I don't know if it's a poor spring or knock-ons on the migration routes, but last year we had 3 pairs of redback shrike. This year, I don't even know if we've got any. There was a male when we left, but obviously I'm sat here now, so I don't know if there's chicks. The females always kind of hide away, and you can't really tell if they've been successful until the chicks fledge, and then they are pretty noisy. But I don't know, it's similar to here. We've had a very cold, damp spring. It's like 8 degrees, kind of middle of May, end of May, and you think you're a migrant that's come up from East Africa, and then you're getting hit to that. But when I left, the fields are alive with large grasshoppers and stuff like that, bush crickets. And we have that like constant chirruping of crickets, which is really cool. I mean, how old am I now? 32. I remember even like 20 years ago, unfortunately now here, where I grew up in Hertfordshire, I'd cycle my bike and there were some areas where you'd hear that, but now that's completely gone. Like that level of invertebrate life is completely, it's devoid of it, which is quite scary. And it's a really stark contrast coming back and forth. No, I haven't been back to the UK for a year, but like seeing that now and the lack of bird life, especially, that I was in Warwickshire yesterday, Hertfordshire, the last 10 days I've been all over kind of the southern bounds of the UK, and the lack of swallows, martins, swifts, stuff like that, these insectivorous birds that should be hawking about the fields. It's just, they're not there. I think that's quite scary for me. We're going on a real downer here.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we have talked about like this year, and it's come up in a lot of conversations I've already had at bird fair. It's the complete lack of invertebrates, particularly butterflies. Like people just are not seeing anything this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mid-July. There should be a lot more around. And there's just nothing. Mind you, also sitting here in a jumper, freezing.
Yeah, it's chilly.
Yeah. But it's been a weird year, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's definitely less around. You walk around a meadow. Oh, there's a few small heaths actually. It seems to be doing all right, but everything else, I've barely seen any.
I was out on one of my favourite spots about a month ago, and that's my go-to spot for butterflies and everything. We struggled to find a marbled white and meadow browns, but so many like grasshopper and cricket nymphs, which was great, but so little of anything else.
Yeah.
And even the burnet moths, nothing. And that's something you would normally see so much of on the chalk grassland. Just nothing.
Yeah. No, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it's just quite, when you talk about it, it's quite scary.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, so basically what we're trying to do at Wild Finca is reverse that trend locally, I guess. We're so small scale, but like lots of fun. I had a guy actually recently. He's also got 16 hectares and he basically keeps autochthonous livestock. So we graze with, how many have we got now? We've got 4 Casina cattle. So they're like a local small breed of horned cattle that have been around since the Bronze Age in the area. And then we have 2 Astacon ponies, which like date back minimum 2,000 years. Pliny the Elder, the Roman naturalist, wrote about them. But he basically keeps those breeds, but en masse. And I went round to his the other day, I can't remember why. And it's just like, the classic, grass, 2 mil of grass everywhere, nothing else. And he hasn't seen ours for a while, but he was like, you should get more animals. He was like, why do you have so few animals? And then neighbours of ours have just sold, and he WhatsApped me like, have they abandoned their farm? It's just full of weeds and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh no, it's sold, and the new people, I think they're going to do. And he's just full of questions, and he sees it as like the ultimate most offensive thing ever, that it's not clean, and they're removing hedgerows to put in barbed wire fences and stuff like that. And I think that's the scariest thing for us, is seeing this like lack of connectivity. They just see that like he's all about conserving a rare breed of domestic livestock. He doesn't see the conserving of wild animals or nature. And yeah, for me that's kind of bizarre. But yeah, so what we're trying to do, we know we're not going to be able to go in there and convince all these local farmers, but if we can do so, I'm working with the University of Oviedo. We had a load of their students over the other day and took them round and showing them basically what we're doing and the mosaic of habitats and the studies we can do. We're not worming the cattle. We're basically like a really small scale net, but we're not introducing white stork or anything like that. But as in, we're seeing what's turning up, but it's harder because we're so small scale, so every negative impact obviously has a greater impact. The edge effects especially, our borderlands with our neighbour, he worms his cattle, so any dung beetles on our side, if they fly the wrong direction, they're goners basically. If they land in the wrong piece of poo, that's it. So for us, it's trying to educate in a soft way and get young people involved and foreigners coming in terms of tourism, visiting us, and then that pays into local economy. People are staying in local hotels and things and coming and seeing what we're doing, and people see that it's not all about, it's an incredibly unsustainable way of farming simply because of the subsidies where we live. And when those subsidies stop, there's going to be a huge problem of loads of farmers with no income, because you literally get paid per head of like cow and calf. It's like 180 euros, I think, per cow. So that would, then you have loads of animals and blah blah blah. I'm not going to go into that. Would be a rant. I could go down into the subsidy things. We don't receive any subsidies, and what's amazing is the Common Agriculture Policy obviously doesn't affect the UK anymore, and I think it's going in the right direction in terms of, I don't know what Labour's plans are actually in terms of the new government, but there's these new payments for nature that seems to be going that way, but the EU does not pay any money to rewilding projects. They use livestock. Pedro Prata from Rewilding Portugal, he's here at the minute. They're using domestic, they've got bison now as well, but they're doing fantastic work, but as far as I know, they don't receive any subsidies for the work they're doing, though it benefits the public way more than any farm would. It's this tricky.
I think there was something passed a few weeks ago, isn't there, in the EU that might help.
The EU restoration law, but if you look at it, it gets,
there's nothing solid in it, is there?
Well, it gets sung about and everyone's excited about it, but it's so watered down, and it's been passed provisionally, but it's still got to go through so many things. But then when you look what was taken out, all the stuff that would have made farms wilder has been taken out. Stuff like for forestry, so I think one of the things was leave dead wood, which we all know is like incredibly important for its species.
50% of fauna, isn't it?
But that's been removed. So there was a thing in it that was that, you've got to leave the dead wood, and now they've removed that, so you can still remove dead wood. I think in Asturias they keep talking about they're doing green biomass, removing dead wood and basically composting it to make energy. It's just absolutely but it's just like removing something that's a perfect habitat for nature to make a short-term energy fix, which it's not green energy.
Same as the maize here, isn't it?
Exactly, biomass.
It destroys the soil.
I think Australia have changed now, right? Like they were leaders on that biofuel thing, and now they've realised it's all a con, so you just hope that. But
it's meant to work on waste, but instead they grow maize, destroy the soil,
exactly,
and then all the soil washes into the river, destroying the river and causing flooding, and the Somerset level which goes underwater.
Maize.
So they blame the RSPB, but there we go.
That could be a Room 101. Maize. That's disastrous.
That's just like it.
Wild boar too. Bears.
My daughter.
Oh no, don't get me wrong, good corn on the cob.
Yeah,
it's quite nice.
So is there anything you'd like to see kind of start to come back to
in terms of us?
Lands?
I mean, we don't really know what to expect. There's also like a geographical, so climate change, I think we're going to see a loss of species but also gain in certain species, like maybe some of these, like say a hoopoe this year, that could be a breeding bird in the next 5 or 10 years, I'm sure. But even like 10 kilometers north of us, the mountainside, the north slope has different species to us, so there's like breeding quail there. We had one quail this year, but they must fly over us to get to that spot. So there's small stuff like that, but then wolves are coming closer and closer. Like the closest wolf at the minute is like 3 kilometers. There's just a river and a road separating us from it, and I'm hoping they're going to breed because they've been causing havoc. Well, it is tricky, like the human wildlife conflict. I think a lot of us think that it's on the continent in Africa and stuff, and elephants and lions, but it's very much in Europe as well. So obviously there's a huge conflict with wolves, with extensive livestock, and that in Asturias is a big thing. So they've been kind of causing havoc in the local community, and a few goats here and there, or not here and there, quite over them. Anyway, they haven't arrived at ours, but they've been doing that since like last September. So I assume if there's more than one and it's a pair, that they should breed this year. And then bear as well, the closest bear is like 16 kilometres as the bear would walk. And there's like the Cantabrian Bear Research Group have done a study, and now 8 years away, basically this was about 2 years ago, we're in the kind of like expansion plan for bears. If
Oh,
that's
that's
what you wanna
cool.
call it, in the next decade. And, the habitats there, it's all about mental corridors, which I think isn't spoken about enough. There's a lot of talk about making green corridors, and Spain's actually quite well connected in terms of trees. And to get to wild Finca, for example, it's not
Yeah.
difficult. But if there's someone with a bag full of poison or a gun, that's going to stop it. So it's changing the mindsets of people. And I think there is work being done on that. But then recently I was somewhere and a guy showed me a load of pictures of, is it an apiary, is it called? Loads of beehives. And it was literally looked like a prison. It was like, must have been 8 foot, 10 foot high barbed wire strands and fencing, electric. And somehow the bear had got in and every beehive was like turned over. So I don't know in that instance, because a lot of the arguments, with the wolf, it's like, well, was there a dog with it? The problem is that people do turn their livestock out and just leave them. And then they're shocked that a wolf comes and kills them. Well, what do you expect? But there is that problem. You say what to expect, but you've got to educate these people and make it worth their while. So that's also something that we're looking at, like, how do you make it worth their while? How, there's a huge aspect. We're at an event here that most of the stands are for nature tourism, right? Like, I don't know how many stands, if you did a percentage. It pays the bills, like nature tourism can pay the bills. So it's convincing local people that people will come and pay money to see their wolves and their bears, and even if they do, still.
And I guess, do they put dogs out with the livestock or not? Because I know, because I worked in the Carpathian Mountains in Romania for a year doing a large carnivore project there, and they all have the traditional grazing, so they put their sheep out, put the cattle out, or whatever, but they actually have dogs with them.
Yeah,
and those dogs are there purely to protect the flock. So even as another person just walking by,
like ferocious.
Oh, if that dog doesn't know you, you're just like, whoa, okay, stop, wait.
If I haven't got a tripod, I'm carrying a stick.
Yeah.
I always say that the two biggest things that I fear in like where we live is those dogs and hunters. There's quite a few instances of people being shot by hunters in Spain and France and stuff. But some flocks do have it, and there was actually a lady called Hannah Peterson. I think she was at the University of York. She did her thesis on that, and she lived with people that have always lived with wolves. Areas where the wolves are coming back and where the wolves aren't yet but will come back. And what she found where there's always been wolves, people have got dogs, they're shepherding, and the conflict is there, but the people are almost more open to it and understand it. And where the wolves are coming back, you've kind of got a mix. There's some people, but dogs cost money as well.
Yeah.
And now you've got to care for them. The laws just changed in Spain for the correct reasons, but you've got to check on them every 24 hours, whereas before they might put a dog up there and just gone up once a week with a bag of food. But also, it doesn't matter how ferocious those dogs are, one livestock guardian dog or two livestock guardian dogs aren't going to protect 300 sheep or whatever from a pack of wolves. And there's instances of those dogs being killed by wolves. So then that's ammo. So they kill them anyway. But I've also seen packs of sheep. They're ferocious. I've also seen flocks of sheep with 10, 15 of those dogs.
Yeah.
And when you speak to those, and a shepherd, when you speak to them, they aren't suffering any losses.
Yeah.
So it does work.
Well, I think that's what they do in the Carpathian Mountains. So in the Transylvania area. So when the flocks go up, the shepherds go with them, and they have at least 5 dogs with them. And I mean, these dogs are huge.
Yeah.
I've got if you're a wolf or a bear, you probably think twice about going anywhere near this dog. But the shepherds actually go with them as well.
Yeah.
And they don't suffer unless it's an injured sheep.
Yeah.
They actually don't suffer any losses from big predators.
No, it works. It's just it's like a lifestyle choice as well, right? So where we live, there would have been wolves. There's a group of farmers, and they say farmers down east, farming this area for 5,000 years since the Bronze Age, but they're extremely anti-bear or wolf. But what do they're proud of the history in terms of, but their ancestors, yes, they would have killed bear and wolf. I don't doubt that, but they still did live alongside it and farmed alongside it.
Yeah.
And then an English guy that lives local to us, that's lived there for 20 years, he's very anti-wolf, and he was saying, well, how do you expect them to, why shouldn't they be allowed to sit at home with their feet up having a beer and watching TV? And my argument was well, if you're going to do that, don't choose to be an extensive livestock farmer.
It's
maybe
choice.
that's really selfish to me, but it's a choice. You can't, obviously I'm biased because I love wildlife and nature, and for me one of the big draws for living where we live was because of the bears and the wolf, but I don't really understand, and I never will. It's I don't hunt. I can't see myself ever going and killing a lion. These people that shoot lions and stuff, I can never see how you could get fun out of that. But maybe the same way they could never get fun out going looking at birds. But where's I going with this? I don't really understand how if you want to farm that way, but you only want sheep and cows and horses there, you just want everything else gone to make your life easier. So it's a bit of give and take. Like if you want to farm that way, then you've got to make sacrifices in terms of whether it's financial and putting more dogs with it, employing someone to be a shepherd for you if you're not going to be that shepherd, or yourself going up there. If you want to sit at home with a beer and watch TV, go get a 9 to 5.
Yeah,
don't be a farmer.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Like I don't think many people go into farming thinking they're going to get, it's 365 days a year job more or less. Like I don't, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be that. I've never worked so hard and I'm not even farming, but like I'm here in the UK for 3 weeks, and I know when I get back, I'm going to be completely snowed under, and that's all my choice. I decided to have 2 children and a farm of types, a rewilding project, but it's bloody hard work, and I'm knackered all the time. But it's my choice, and I do it. And I guess the day when I think it's enough is enough, I wouldn't let, So I guess I'm looking at it from my point of view. That's why. And if wolves turn up at our farm one day, I don't know what we'll do. It'd be fantastic. I can't wait. And that's what I say. Like I've just planted 1,500 trees over the last winter, and my son, who's 5, helped plant some of those. And I always say this, but like we planted hazel and berry trees and crabapple and stuff. There's every chance that in 15 years' time or less, when those trees are fruiting, we could have bears eating those trees. So like when my son's 20, bears could be feeding off the trees that we've planted together. And that's like my motivation, I guess, on that side of things. If I'm alive in 20 years' time, or because I'm so knackered.
If you've survived it.
Oh, those terrifying bears as well eating me. And that's the other thing.
Well, it's the sheep.
The packs of sheep.
The packs of sheep, they're terrifying. Well, I think we've pretty much got to wrap it up there. Just quickly before we go, is there anything in particular you want to try and see, or anything at Bird Fair, anything, or just milling around and having a look?
I don't know. Yeah, I always like checking out the art tent, and I've actually already earmarked a book. I've got to check with my wife if I'm allowed to buy it. And there's 2 books, in fact. Mammals of the world. Every mammal. We got the birds of the world.
Woolly Wildlife's pretty good, isn't it, Vic?
Yeah, you should. It's just come and check out Woolly Wildlife.
Yeah, I need to come and check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Come say hello.
Well, cool. You have vultures on your site, don't you? So
yeah. We've actually recorded all. No, we haven't had bearded vulture, but this year we've had Cinereus. They've been renamed Griffin vulture and Egyptian vulture. So yeah, 3 of the 4.
There's some vultures on your stand, isn't there, Vic?
Oh yeah, I have. I love vultures. Absolutely love my vultures.
Bloody good birds.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They're so pretty in their own way as well.
Yeah. Well, bearded
Gorgeous.
vulture, even an Egyptian, they're just pretty.
Gorgeous.
Egyptian
Not
vultures.
even in their own way. Like they're just epic birds.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for joining us.
It's been really interesting chatting to you.
Thank you for having
Hope you
me.
enjoy the rest of the bird.
Follow Wild Finca on Instagram.
Yes, go follow Wild Finca, guys. We'll put all the links and stuff on their page.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, thanks very much.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
If you want to find out more about Wild Finca, you can find them on their website at www.wildfinca.com, where you can subscribe to their Substack and sign up for online workshops. Thanks for listening.